Meredith. Yeah, I like some of the changes that you're doing with your caricature. I'm not sure if you looked at my last couple feedbacks, just because I don't really see too many changes that are substantial. So just the first thing, the caricature is way too small. This is really about the caricature. It's not about the background. So what I would do is I would take the house off or turn it off, and I would move the caricature. I'm actually going to put, yeah, that red doesn't work either. Yeah, that doesn't really work either. So what I'm going to do is I already showed you this earlier, but I'm going to take all of these layers and put them in a folder. So, whoops, wrong one. Put them in a folder so I can move them around. So now I can move them. So what I would do is I would move him over here, and I would crop this, and then make it 8 by 10, but I would really just cut off, I don't know, maybe he'll look better over here, either here or here. And then I would really crop it down. And with the text, there's a lot of things you can do to make the text stand out more. Let me see, garden. I'm going to try to make it bigger here. I don't have the font, so that's the problem with if you don't have the font, it doesn't show up. I can't really do much with it. But I'm going to make it a little bit a little bit bigger, just to show you some different ways that you can make it stand out more. So then here, if you go up to layer and go to layer styles, and if you add something like an outer glow or a stroke. So if I add, let's say, excuse me, even just a white outer glow, and I'm going to bump up the transparency. You can kind of see now it stands out a lot more, doesn't it? And that's just because it's all about contrast. If you like this black, there's no contrast. It's like dark on dark. So if you do something to create contrast, this is a huge graphic design concept that it's just good to really learn it now. And you could play with these and do a lot of, that's too much. But so, and I'm not saying to do the stroke, to do the outer glow, you can do a stroke too, something like that. And just don't overdo any of it, because that's when it starts to look really kind of cheesy. But again, there's a red stroke, a really small one. And again, you can just turn it off too. So let me see here. No, that's way too much. So I probably wouldn't do the stroke. I'd probably just turn that off. And I would keep the, whoops, wrong one. I would keep that, and I'd probably just keep the stroke off or do something. But if you had bigger text, it would work more. So that's kind of what I would really suggest, is working with the text and making it stand out more. It doesn't really look like a garden, but being outside in the trees is fine too. You could also, I'm just trying to think of where, just work with the placement of the caricature. Shoot. Trying to just move this. You could put it, I'm just trying to think of where it's going to have the most contrast. And then I would make it bigger. And there's things that you can do to dim the background too that would, that will make the caricature stand out more. So, you can go into, there's your background right here. Oh, you have two different ones. That's kind of a problem, but actually what I'm going to do is I'm just going to lock these or link them, whatever. And then I can go and add an adjustment, like a levels or something, and just play around with it to see what you can do to make this stand out more, because you can't see any of the details, which is, a big part of this assignment. Yeah, it's just too complicated. You might want to just, find another background, because that's probably be the best solution if you just find a less complicated background. If you go and if you do a Google image search for something like, do something like grassy field, let me see here, new window. And I've already showed you this before. So if you do something like, let's say grassy field background. If you put background or wallpaper, you're going to get a lot bigger sizes. So I'm just going to look at some of these, and if you do something that has negative space, and negative space means there's not a bunch of stuff in it, that will, like even something like this, that will really allow your caricature to stand out a lot more. And that's kind of the object of this whole assignment, or even something like this that's light would allow the caricature to stand out. That's too small. You see when I drag it over, it says 450 by 281. That's too small. You need to find one that's at least like this one of like 2,000 pixels, something like that. This would work too, something like that, but that's kind of complicated. So that would be my, this one would probably work too. This is a really big one. So that would really work too with your caricature. You wouldn't have to do too much more, but add a drop shadow. So in terms of incorporating the other suggestions, if you have time, I would look back through my feedback. I'm not sure you viewed it. Some of them show 0 views. And just really work on it to make, to see if you can make this stand out more. Because, without this, with a light background, you can see, I'm just going to add a layer here, and I'm just going to fill it with white because, something light will really, make it stand out. Let's see what it looks like with, with a darker background. It's going to not see that this part doesn't stand out on a black background. So that's, that's kind of what the issue is. You could try for, like a middle gray or something. But again, these are just some tools to get you going here with a better portfolio piece. And I think you're going to need the grade points. So I would really suggest going over those past feedbacks and really trying to work on incorporating the feedback. There's also some issues with the masks. Excuse me. Pretty rough through here. You can't see it as much here, but pretty rough around the edges here, which really for a final project that's worth this many points, some of this stuff really needs to be taken care of. Okay, so let me know if you have any questions, and I'm happy to look at any revision. I would definitely suggest posting 1 or 2 before Wednesday for portfolio and points. Okay, so anyway, I like your ideas.